Good morning and welcome to Sage Garden Ecovillas. It's April 15th, 2023, and I've noticed that right now there are a lot of things happening. There's spontaneous maturation happening on a lot of fronts right now. Things that we've sort of initiated, and now our role is just to step back and let them mature to fruition. So I want to take a video tour and kind of survey those things. One is down here, actually. I've got in some containers to keep the moisture in. I've got sand and some roots, ginger mostly. And look, there's a little bud starting to come up. And I'm too curious to resist. Let me see if there are any roots under the surface. This guy. That's one nice thing about sand. You can just dig it up and take a look and then put it right back in. Okay, so I don't see any roots. Oh, wait, yep. I think there's a little bit of root there. All right, well, let's put him back in. Let him get back to what he's doing. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate that. Excellent. So it seems like in any collaboration with nature, with natural spontaneous processes, there's another one right there. There's this phase of the collaboration where our job as humans is just to wait. Sometimes it's wait and give attention and minor management interventions occasionally. I'm going to grab a long stem thermometer here. And sometimes it's just to wait with patience and not to do anything. Here's some mint getting ready to be planted. And so we've got several of those examples of that going on right now. Here's some cilantro going to seed, which I'm letting it go for number one. So we've got some flowers that'll provide foraging for specialist predators. It's nice to have as many different kinds of foraging for the specialists as possible. Also, of course, that'll go to seed, and that'll be coriander, which will be very valuable. And then got a lot of things happening in this kitchen garden. Swiss chard, especially. So here's another one. This is not as natural as the ginger that we looked at, but I've got some water sitting out here in a 5-gallon bucket. This time of year, seems like I can always use some dechlorinated water. So I'm just letting that sit, not putting any effort into it, letting the chlorine evaporate out of it so that I can use it. Here is a static compost pile that we put together recently, and it's also in that phase of maturation. I'm going to take a look at the temperature. So the temperature peaked out at about 145 to 150 Fahrenheit. So it's coming back down now. It's it looks like it's at about 100 degrees, probably not much hotter than that. So right now the soil food web, actually it's mostly just the first trophic layer of that food web. The bacteria and the fungi are busy working on this pile, and our job is just to stand back, observe periodically, not to walk on the jasmine, and when needed, give it a little bit of water. And just observe it, make sure that it's got all the elements that it needs to mature into a valuable homegrown organic fertilizer that'll be rich in nutrients and rich in microbes and other living things, flora and fauna, that'll be very helpful to our trees and bushes especially, but also to the vegetable gardens. So it looks like that topped out about 110 today. There's another pile started here. I could go on and on about the static compost pile. We've done this before and learned some things the hard way, learned some things the easy way too. And I'm very happy that we've got that initiated, and now it's working all on its own. Here's another thing I want to point out. Some prickly pears. So we've planted quite a few of these. These guys are champions of producing output with very little input. Obviously, they're born out of this climate. I was going to say adapted to, but I mean, really they're resident in this climate. And so very little initial effort. All it takes is just, cutting a little slit in the ground and popping a pad into the ground. And it takes care of itself from there. And it produces pads that we can eat. Once they get old enough, it'll produce fruit that we could eat. But it's really, really a generous plant. I don't know what to focus on in here, so I think I'll just pass by. This is one of the food forest areas where we're experimenting with ways to sort of curate a succession of species, easy for me to say, that will lead to a thriving ecosystem that'll just keep producing value for us. A little bit of oregano. I wish you could smell that through the camera. It smells wonderful. So as I look at these things that are spontaneously maturing on our own, it reminds me of a feeling I had as a young kid, kind of a smug feeling related to finance. When I had my first savings account as I was maybe 8, 9 years old. Here's some wheat popping up, by the way. Also, just spontaneously maturing. Took a little bit of initial work on our part, and now our job is to sit back and let it go. Let it do its thing. And there's a leucaena sprout as well. But that sort of smug feeling when I read the first statement, the account statement for the savings account saying, here's this much interest. And now this is yours. And, accompanying that experience was a feeling that, I did something good. And now I'm, of course, being rewarded for it. All of which is illusory. Give the garbage truck a chance to go by here. So all of those feelings are kind of synthetic and illusory in the case of financial wealth, but I think they are born from a more pure, sort of natural feeling of material well-being from our early agriculture and husbandry days. The persimmon is starting to sprout some leaves. I'm very happy to see that. It's sort of a late bloomer, to use a confusing metaphor. So we have this sort of natural instinct to look at natural systems like this, hollyhocks, where we've done some initial effort and now we're just letting them spontaneously mature. And over tens, hundreds of thousands of years, we've developed this instinct, this feeling that says, that's good, do more of that. Do more farming. That way you'll have more food to eat. But it's kind of hijacked and co-opted by artificial systems like our way of understanding finance and economy into something that I'm not going to say is destructive inherently, but it certainly has vast potential for destruction because of the way that it can mute or even change signals from our consciences about what's beneficial to ourselves and others and what's harmful. We've got some older wheat here. It's getting closer. It'll turn pale before we can harvest it. And we've also, speaking of maturation, got some leucaenas in here as well. And these will turn into a solid border between the pathways in this walking labyrinth. Looking forward to that. Looks like I've created some obstacles for myself here. I've got the labyrinth behind me and an artificial maze here. All right, maturation. Charlie's been working on his garden, and we've got some plants that are sprouting now, maturing. I don't know what those are. I'd have to ask him about that, but it looks really good. There's some tomato. It looks like, are those peas? I don't know. But everything looks good there. Here's another example. We've got some lemongrass. We had a stand of lemongrass here that I probably should have pulled up in the fall and prepared, but we did it in the spring, and I think it's going to be okay. Better late than never, I think, in this case. So they're in the process of growing roots. Don't know if you can see there's some white new roots. So once it's got some decent roots, we'll be planting those in various places around the yard. And you see I did some of these the sort of correct way, cutting the tops off. And by the way, we're grinding those down for tea, lemongrass tea. And I have a control group here too, where I just left them to see what'll happen. See if it'll grow roots. It's obviously growing like a champ. I don't know if you can see it through the camera here, but it's got some well-developed new white roots coming out. And we'll see how it does when we put it in the ground. And I've got just a bucket full of these untrimmed as well. So there's another example of spontaneous maturation. We've done some work to initiate it, and now our job is to sit back. We do a little bit of maintenance, changing the water out to keep it fresh, keep it from growing mold on the roots. Here's another example. We've got cuttings from this spring. Got a bit of a late start on cuttings, but looks like everybody's doing really well here. So under this surface, well, what kinds of plants do we have here? Cuttings. We've got figs, we've got grapes, Barbados cherry, mulberry. We've got some guamuchil. I know I'm forgetting something. Some jojobas. I don't know what else. But so we've got all these guys labeled, and I am tempted right now to take a look under the surface and see if I can see any roots. So I'm going to gently try not to break any new roots. I'm going to try to loosen this up so that I can gently pull this guy out. There's a little resistance. I don't know if that's because there's a knob on the cutting that's keeping it from coming out, or if it's because roots are taking hold. I'm going to pull very gently here. See what we see, just because I'm too curious not to. Look at that. Beautiful. Oh, that is good to see. So this guy's growing roots. We planted a lot of cuttings last year. I'm going to leave that for now, but I'm going to come back and take care of that after the video. Did a lot of cuttings last year where we just put them directly into the ground. Didn't really take care of them enough, didn't pamper them enough. And one or two out of the hundreds that we cut made it. So this year I've just done what you see in this container, and I'm pampering them more so we have a higher success rate. And then we'll see where we go from there. It looks like we've got pretty good success this year, though, with a little bit of extra effort. And it's not too much effort. I mean, just a bin full of sand covered to keep the moisture in, and then, you know, with a rope around it to keep the top on. I'm going to leave that out because it's very moist right now. So leave that and let it dry on top just a little bit. But I'll get back to it. What else? Oh, this moringa. So this fall/winter, we pollarded our big moringa trees at about 8 feet, anywhere from 6 to 8 feet, and had many reasons for that. And now they're in a state of spontaneous maturation. They are waking up from dormancy and growing new branches, and we'll have new, look at that, we'll have new flowers and beans to eat, and then later pods to eat, and in the meantime leaves to eat. So right now it's just in the process of maturing, building up the capability for that fruition later. Let me look at some more. There's a butterfly, by the way. I don't know what that says about maturation, but it's nice to see. Oh, the oranges. The orange blossoms have faded, but you can see the beginning of fruition here. So we had easily 500, probably 1,000, maybe multiple thousands of flowers on this tree in the spring. So I can't wait to see what happens. Same with the mango. The mango, we're probably going to take these flowers off because this tree is young and you can see it's kind of gangly. I really need it to focus more of its energy and growth in branches and leaves this year. Look at that though. Look at all those panicles of flowers. They're potential mangoes, but honestly, if I let those go this year, let them mature without intervening, we might get a handful of mangoes. The rest of them would probably just dry up and fall. Same thing here with the olives. So the olives are flowering. Some of the flowers are fading, starting to give us little tiny olives. This is Lucy's garden plot. Wow, I got a lot of things coming up here. Now some of these are cover crops. I see some vetch. Those are cover crop seeds that just germinated after we cut down the first kind of flush of cover crops. Look at that Swiss chard, it's beautiful. There's some clover, which is one of our cover crops. That's crimson clover, great for winter cover crop. And then of course we've got this arbor of grapes. The leaves are getting to the point where you can eat them, and we've had the grapes flowering, and now the flowers have faded and we're getting these little tiny fruits. So that is just spontaneously maturing because their roots are in this basin where they get gray water from our washing machine. So sort of spontaneously, artificial and natural spontaneity there. They get water without any additional effort on our part other than what we were going to do anyway, wash our clothes. Oh, fig leaves. By the way, if you get a chance to make tea out of fig leaves, do it. It's delicious and nutritious. There's some more prickly pears. They're peaked out in terms of maturation because of the pots they're in. We got a garbage truck coming here. So those prickly pears in pots, the pots really limit their potential to mature any further. I've got to get them in the ground so they can continue to mature and give us some food for free without any additional effort on our part. Oh, speaking of no additional effort, these 3 fig saplings sprouted spontaneously. And so we staked them up and said, let's see which of these survives the best. Oh, I mentioned gray water. I've got some laundry going now. You might be able to hear it. So, look at all these moringa leaves. So that's just maturing now spontaneously. And pollarding, pruning dramatically down to 6 or 8 feet has many ecological benefits, too many probably for me to name in this little video, but that's having all sorts of good effects, not only on this individual organism, but all the organisms around it. It gave winter sunlight to the plants on the floor here. Let's see, and these figs are maturing as well. Let's see if I can catch some fruit. Here we go, here's some fruit. It's obviously not ripe yet, but it's in process. Here's a volunteer pepper plant. We didn't plant this, it just came up. So hey, free peppers. Same thing with this. I don't know what kind of tree this is, but it looks like an acacia. I think, I strongly suspect it's some kind of legume tree. So although it's pruned back heavily, we let it grow there because that will be a great companion to the fig trees and everything around here. And there's a jujube. Oh, look, flower buds on the jujube. So we'll have some delicious fruit there later. And I think I'm about ready to end this video. Here's our laundry area with the figs, or not the figs, with the grapes overhead. Spontaneously maturing. So I think I'll leave you with that. I wish you all the best, and I hope that you have an opportunity to set some things in motion in your own yard to enjoy the benefits of spontaneous maturation on your own site. Take care, and hope to see you soon over at Sage Gardens.